It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today. Welcome back to Reality Check. We're your hosts, Jess and Jill, and today's episode is about something called the Dunning-Kruger Effect, and I'm actually not even going to elaborate to get into this because this will be fun for you guys. Jess apparently has a story to tell me on this topic, and she has not told me until, I'm hearing it for the first time, and so are you guys. So I'm just going to let Jess kick off with the story, and then we'll get into this topic.
We weren't even going to record about this topic today, but I had this interaction yesterday with this dude, and I was like, this is so appropriate for how so many people approach health and fitness. And I feel like it was like a delight. I was smiling while we were having this conversation because I was like, this is so interesting, because me 7 or 8 years ago would have just completely dismissed him and not listened at all. And now I'm going home to chat GPT and tell me more about this, because now I want to learn the scientific reason behind why, right? So I texted Jill this morning. I was like, hey, let's change our topic because I want to talk about this interaction. It was kind of cool. So every month we have this local health and fitness meetup group that is just with practitioners from all different industries. And yesterday I met this guy who is a doctor of Chinese medicine and an acupuncturist, which obviously is not a field I know anything about at all, right? So completely cold, just asking tell me about what you do. It's fascinating learning about different areas of health, right? And at first he started talking about helping with some, I think it came up from somebody else who was there, helping women when they have fertility issues and stuff. And he gave this analogy about if you want to plant a seed and you want the seed to grow, first you have to nourish the soil, right? And give. And I was like, I can dig that, right? That's what we do too with nutrition. I'm not claiming to be a fertility specialist, but yeah, you got to get the body healthy, and then great, now we can do these things. Then he starts going off a little bit, and he's talking about cold temperatures and hot temperatures, and how for example, we need in the summer cool foods like watermelon, and in the winter, if you have too many cool foods when you need warm foods, if you put too much ice in your drink, then the brain and the forebrain is attached to the stomach, and that's why you get a brain freeze. And I was like, okay, what are you talking about, buddy? I'm thinking in my brain, no, food and nutrition is an area that I have a pretty good specialty in. I know that he's just going off in the back of my mind. I'm like, okay, whatever. But tell me about the acupuncture part, because I know nothing about that, right? So we start talking about, I'm asking him more specifically about, hey, have you ever worked with people who have autoimmune issues? So Jill knows this. One of my daughters has been going through this saga of really rough symptoms, and we've gone to every single doctor, and nobody's doing a whole lot, honestly. But we've gotten labs back that there's some sort of autoimmune issue going on. Now, because of my education within the functional nutrition space, right, I'm ordering her all the labs, and I am looking into, we're already starting anti-inflammatory diets to try to lower her toxic burden on her body, right? Lower stress. Looking into, okay, I already did a gut test and her gut looks pretty good, but I'm looking into maybe we need to do some sort of liver detox or something if she has built up toxins just from her vaccine schedule, or there's usually the things that she's experiencing, older people get when they have some sort of toxic buildup and or stress overload, right? So those are the pathways that I'm going down, while also scheduling with a rheumatologist and trying to get Western medical help, right? I gave him very little information. I just gave him well, here's her symptoms, because he asked me. And he goes, so what it sounds like is in Chinese medicine, we have damp symptoms and wind symptoms. And I was like, what the hell is this man talking about? And he goes, wind. He was like, damp is if you picture arthritis and people's joints flare up because they swell from rain and the weather and stuff, that's damp. He was like, she sounds like she has wind symptoms. And I'm like, what the hell is a wind? And he goes, it's acute. It comes and goes. She'll get these rashes. She'll get these body aches. But then the next day she's perfectly fine, right? That's what it's kind of sounding like. And I was like, yeah, what do you do about wind symptoms? And he was like, well, usually wind symptoms are related to the liver and to stress response. And I was like, wait, what do you say that again? And he was like, so we do these herbs. And essentially he's like telling me, okay, we do these herbs to help cleanse the liver and blah, blah, blah. Right. So I get home and I'm like, Brett, I just had the weirdest conversation. And I was like smiling while this guy's talking. I told him, I was like, listen, the reason I'm smiling is because you're literally speaking a completely different language. I know nothing about what you're talking about, but we're arriving at the same conclusion somehow. Right. So I go home and I have the notes pulled up. All I asked, I didn't give any context about like the cool and the warm and the damp and like all that stuff. I just said, can you please explain to me, to Chat GPT, I asked this, can you please explain to me wind of Chinese medicine in functional medicine language, please? And it said, well, wind in Chinese medicine is blah, blah, blah. And it literally broke down every single scientific why behind what their approach is doing. Yeah. And it said, okay, this is the why behind it. This is the way that they categorize these different things, right? So if it were in my version of this, I'm agreeing with literally every single thing, but because he's saying it in a new way that I have no knowledge of, I'm dismissing him as if like, come on, what are you talking about, buddy, right? So I'm reading through this and I'm like, whoa, and it's talking about have we looked into heavy metal or mold toxicity, vagal nerve dysfunction, if there was a lot of stress in utero, which there was with her, like we had several complications. And it goes on to say like clinical examples and how they might help with this would be, hold on, let me pull it up. Sorry, here, I have to scroll down. To drain toxins by adding binders and things like milk thistle, anti-inflammatory diets, supporting the gut to make sure that she has a good protective barrier, to calm the nervous system by maybe adding something like mindfulness, magnesium, vagus nerve stimulation, and then looking to see if there's some sort of environmental load, right? So it literally came to the exact same conclusion I came to with all my functional tests, but in a totally different way. And again, I just thought it was interesting because and again, when he's talking about the watermelon or whatever, I was kind of like a little bit dismissive in that moment. But to be able to be like, you know what? If you're healing patients, there's got to be it's okay for me to not understand the why yet, right? And I think me 7 or 8 years ago, just getting into training and nutrition would have been like, come on, this guy's full of shit, blah, blah, blah. It must be a placebo effect, rather than digging deeper and being like,
she's a kid, she has a liver, like she's fine.
Right. Whereas now, I know how little I know, to the point that it's really fun exploring these different methods of, wow, these practitioners are healing people in totally different ways. Just because they cannot explain the why to it in a way that I understand doesn't mean it doesn't work, right? So anyway, I just thought that was fascinating when I came home and I looked this up on chat and I was like, whoa, like all of this does have a scientific backing in terms of it. He's just saying it different. So anyway, now getting in, how does this relate to the Dunning-Kruger effect, and how does the Dunning-Kruger effect relate to our coaching of clients? There's this like inverted bell curve between competency and confidence, right? So I just talked about, hey, back when I first started training full-time 8 years ago, the confidence is through the roof, right? I just passed my certification. I'm like, oh, I'm training people in person. Oh yeah, I had a lady once with a knee issue, so I can give you a couple mobility moves. And it's like, you don't know how little you don't know when you're very first learning something. You have this ridiculously idiotic inflated confidence. And then what ends up happening is that confidence, and I don't think it's that confidence necessarily goes down, but there's a humility that starts to come when you learn how little you knew before, right? So the more of an expert I become in my field, which I think I'm pretty good in my field at this point in terms of the things I specialize in. The more and more you learn about your field, the more you realize, wow, in this world of all these things, how little we actually know, right? So a lot of times this is a dynamic at play with our clients that we talk to them about it actually in the first couple of weeks to give them the heads up that, hey, you're probably thinking, oh yeah, I've gone on diets before, or I've exercised, so I know everything. there's going to be times where we're turning this thing upside down and you're going to be like, whoa, I didn't know that this way was so much more effective. And it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable realizing how little you actually know. And we're going to work through that with you so that on the other side of it, you actually understand the why behind every single thing to the extent that you could implement this stuff on your own and never need a coach again. So that's kind of how it applies in this scenario.
Yeah, it's funny. I just had an onboarding call with a new client of mine, and I was kind of going through the why behind like, okay, we're initially going to increase calories. This is like the intention of this, muscle building phase to start with. And I said, you reported like X number of cardio sessions per week. The reason that I shifted to this direction is blah, blah, blah. Do you have questions? And she was like, yes, this is my question. This is why I like running. This is why I do it, whatever. Right. So we talked through all of that. But she was very receptive, and she was like, I know that you know more than me, so I'm just here to roll with the punches, which I appreciate because, and not that if a client is nervous or whatever type of feeling, I don't discount
we
that
expect
either, right?
that. Yeah.
So we're prepared for that. But I was like, cool, this is going to be really fun. Doesn't mean she won't have moments where she's like, what are we doing at some point? But it was interesting. I had just posted that day or the next day on my story, before and now picture of a client who is eating like 700 calories more per day. There was only a 1 pound difference, but she literally looks like she lost like, I swear, a good 15 pounds. And she replied to that story, like fascinated. And it was really cool because on the call, she was very open and receptive, but like that picture was exactly what we discussed on the call. And it solidified everything for her. And she was like, wow, this is really freaking cool. So it doesn't tend to happen that way. So for her, that was a really great
usually it takes a long time.
So that was some early validation for her. But like Jess said, this is why we do not intentionally let clients overhaul their entire life and go 0 to 100 on week one, which is where often they're like, is this really all we're doing? Or I'm bored or whatever, because that initial like dopamine hit and hype and that motivation when you first start can lead to very unrealistic expectations. And we need to dial that back, because I'm glad you think you can work out 6 days a week, but we both know that's probably not realistic 1, 3, 5 years from now with your life. Also, it's not necessary to get the result that you want. So we have to kind of like pace that mental journey to avoid the crash that comes with that early inflated confidence, to make sure that there's an understanding behind that why. And we prep them for like what's coming, right? The point where things feel slower, where they feel more complex, where that self-doubt is going to creep in, because it 100% will. That shift is you moving deeper into that learning curve where your confidence is coming down, because you're like, oh, this is territory I've not entered.
It's a little harder than I thought.
But your skill set is slowly increasing, but you don't have that confidence to meet that skill set yet. And that's why you have a coach and accountability and outside perspective, right? So it's this, like Jess said, this bell curve that shifts in the opposite direction, where it's like, okay, this is true competence. Now, in today's episode, we're talking about how this relates to like you as if you're a client or just somebody consuming information on your health and wellness and fitness and whatever weight loss journey. But we're also speaking to professionals in the space. So I'm going to kind of tangent, and I know Jess will too, as we kind of work through the nuances of the Dunning-Kruger effect, because I think it's really important to understand as a provider to not have that inflated confidence. In fact, when I've had newer coaches on my team, I tell them, shut up. Listen more than you speak, because you are so eager with all of this blind confidence of I am now a professional. Humble yourself, because this is part of that learning process that a new coach goes through. Just like Jess said, I did the same thing. But it's also important as a consumer of all of the information that we are inundated with on social media. So often we give credibility to people on the internet who just speak confidently. They speak their belief so surely that you're like, this has to be right? I could,
without understanding the why,
without true context.
Oftentimes that's my question to the other professionals and or to the consumer. Okay, well, why? Why did they say that? Or what's the mechanism that works through? And the person talking is like, I don't know. I saw it on a TikTok somewhere, or I saw it on YouTube. And it's like, okay, they're like, our job is to zoom out and look big picture context on, okay, how's this little choice going to actually implement the whole system and the whole person? Not just, oh, well, it was in a study once, so this person regurgitated it, right? Like if you don't understand the why behind it, it might not serve that person that you're feeding this advice to.
Yeah. Like I had a woman in a conversation today and she told me that she was at a weight loss plateau. And I was like, give me the rundown, give me background. She said she tried macros, it didn't work for her. And so she switched to Weight Watchers and the weight just fell off of her. And because fruit is 0 points, she has now correlated in her head that one, macros do not work for her. And that two, her body loses weight faster when she consumes more fruit. Now, when I'm saying those words out loud, she may actually even hear them and be like, that kind of sounds funny, right? But there's like one of those correlation is not causations. She so wholeheartedly believes that macros don't work. So I gently explained what macros are, how no matter what diet you follow, you're consuming macros as a human being.
And the fact that you're eating
macros.
You're eating more fruit, you're probably eating more fiber, you're probably
Nutrient
more
dense,
full,
eating less.
so you're probably eating less calories without realizing it.
So anyway, I just think it's interesting that when I had that conversation, I didn't even know this was our topic of podcast for today. And I was like, wow, that actually correlates.
It happens over and over and over again. I think like supplementation is another one that this happens with quite a bit. And like both of us have kind of gone through our journeys of, oh, well, my liver detoxes itself, to like, oh, some of these supplements might be actually really effective for a specific outcome. Not to just dish out to the broad general population, right? Same with like probiotics. It's like some people will just be like, oh, if their tummy hurts, give them a probiotic. And it's like, well, do you actually know what goes into the gut microbiome, right?
Maybe and what they problem you even want to solve.
Right. Like, do they have a contaminant that we need to reduce? Or do they actually have an abundance of they have too much of a good thing. And now you're about to dump more of it in because you don't actually know what the root cause is.
Throwing the balance off even
But more. What oftentimes it is just people following marketing. It's like really good sales strategies of these companies that are like, oh, take this product, it's going to fix all the things. And it's like, did you look at like the dosing of what that product was? Is that actually the researched amount that is effective?
Yeah.
Did you look at that person's labs to see if that's actually the thing that they're low on? Did you look like all of those things?
So anyway, on the internet, when they talk about, it helps with bloating, it helps with regularity. Generally speaking, if we zoom out, that often is because you're speaking to a person that doesn't get enough fiber in their diet, doesn't get enough nutrients in their diet. So yes, that supplement is filling gaps. But again, there are a plethora of things that can cause bloating and irregular digestion. So that might not be the problem that you have, right? You might be creating a whole new problem. So it's important to understand that when you're consuming information too, which I know we talk about a lot on this podcast.
Yeah. And obviously, I don't think also with that, the theory of the Dunning-Kruger effect, I don't think it's like a hard law, right? There's lots of different influences that go into our level of confidence. Some people have more positive. Jill always talks about my rose-colored glasses, right? Like some people have these outlooks of, it's okay, we'll figure it out, and other people don't. Some people feel pressure, like I have to have it all figured out because I feel insecure about it if I don't, right? Like everybody is different. This is not like a one-size-fits-all thing, but it's a pattern we see a lot with both our clients and with up and coming coaches. So again, it's just like a self-aware type thing. And I've had so many clients. So Jill did like this video on this topic and hey, here's how this applies to you as a client. Here's some of the phases you might go through during your journey with us. And she sends it to our clients within their first week. I've had so many of them message me and say like, wow, the way Jill just broke that down, it makes sense. I can think of other times in my life that this has applied, and I never thought of it applying for something like fitness and exercise, right? Like I think, especially the field that we are in, everybody eats, everybody talks about diets, everybody's lost weight at one point in their life. That doesn't mean that they have learned how to do it in the right way, learned how to keep it off, that they are qualified to be giving that advice, that they have successfully ever helped guide somebody through it and keep it off. Let alone people of many different backgrounds, right? So just because they are aware of it doesn't mean that they're actually able to implement it at all. And I think because everybody eats or everybody can go for a walk or a jog outside, they think like, oh yeah, exercise and nutrition, that's an easy topic. Where it's like, I don't know, I wouldn't go to some random person who worked at the front desk at a law office because I need the best legal advice, right? I'm going to go to the qualified professional. Like, great, that's nice that you worked near somebody who worked on law once, but that doesn't mean that you're the qualified professional, right? So anyway, that's my little tangent. But I feel like it's just really common.
Yeah, I was going to say this applies to like every Facebook conversation around dieting and weight loss that has ever existed in a mom's or women's or female's
Oh my
Facebook
gosh,
group.
it is the
Because it's like
worst.
somebody said the other day a question about like losing weight with PCOS, and I gave a very like gentle explanation. This woman replied to me with such confidence, well, losing weight is harder with PCOS because blah, blah, blah. And I was like, give me some context here. What brought you to this conclusion, right? And generally speaking, it's not me spreading better information out into the world is not done via arguing in Facebook comments. I usually just tend to let it go and let clients come to us, educate that way, and spread it in a healthy way.
And then we're able to have
Because they're
conversations one-on-one
receptive.
with context.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, it happens often.
like-
So women who
it's
are
like-
like learning hormones, right? Like all the women that come to me that say they have high cortisol, it's because they have consumed some amount of information and identified with something that sounded similar or relatable on a TikTok video or on an Instagram reel or on their neighbor's friend who, you know, takes medication for high cortisol, whatever, right? I have X, Y, and Z, so I'm gluten free. I have this, so I don't consume dairy, or I'm sensitive, or I eat fruit because it makes me lose weight fast, or whatever, right? So there's this confidence that comes from these very like surface level fixes because we have this like itty bitty tiny like understanding or growth or expansion of knowledge in an area, and all of a sudden we're an expert in things. And listen, Jess and I are not saying we are experts in anything except metabolism.
We're pretty damn good at what we do with metabolic adaptation and strength programming, good lifting cues. I would say we're pretty good at it.
Right?
Oh, absolutely not. I would never call myself an expert. I would never use that word, right? But yeah, we're pretty good in this field. And yeah, it's fascinating. It is fascinating watching the consuming of it. There's also this thing where I think, I think I might have already touched on this, but that you learn something and you become better at it by putting in reps, right? So then that goes for anything you're going to practice. If you're going to become better, keep putting in reps. So there's these levels to it, right? We learn things, maybe we were taught it, or we learned it in a book, or we watched a video on it, we read in a research paper, whatever. Okay, that's like level 1. That's like the most basic level of understanding you can have. Now, can you explain it? Do you understand it fully enough that you could teach it to somebody else? That's level 2. Do you understand it enough that you can live it? Or do you just understand it logically? Or are you able to actually implement these things yourself? Now, can you help somebody else actually implement it and keep consistent with it and maintain it long term, right? That's like the highest level of, okay, if you are looking to hire a coach, those are some of the questions that I might ask is like, okay, well, how do you maintain without having to diet all the time or without tracking for the rest of my life? What types of clients like me have you helped in the past, right? I might not be a menopausal woman with 6 kids, right? How many of them have I coached? How many of them have I helped maintain results?
She won't sign up with us because I'm not menopausal. So I know.
Well, and that's what made me think of that, right? And it's like, okay, do you like, I feel like you give this example all the time, but like how many oncologists became oncologists because they already had and healed themselves from cancer, right? No, you can be a specialist in a field, and the more experience you get, the better you're going to become at producing outcomes.
Hundreds of perimenopausal women lose weight, find balance, all of the things. But because I haven't experienced menopause, I am not qualified.
Yeah, and we get that.
She can think whatever she wants.
Yeah, but it's just a really common kind of scenario. So anyway, if you are a coach, just I guess put in the reps, one, and get the experience with lots of people, but always be curious, not judgmental, right? Is that Ted Lasso?
Yeah, I think so.
Be curious, not judgmental, because there is so much more you don't know than what you do know, right? And how much can you learn from professionals who maybe have been in the business longer than you? And again, going back to this guy from yesterday, I'm like, I'm going to go book an appointment for myself and my daughter because I want to learn. Okay, maybe there's something. Again, maybe I'm saying it in a different way, but maybe there's something to this approach that I don't understand. I feel like I felt the same about this for yoga for years and years and years, where I'm like, oh my gosh, some hippie stuff. They're going to align my chakras. Like, how ridiculous. And then I go and I read the neuroscience literature about meditation, and I'm like, oh, it actually changes your neural pathways and it changes your gray matter in your brain. And like, oh, it physically, but that doesn't mean it didn't work. They're just not explaining it in the way that I understand. It still worked.
Yeah. It's funny. I was at the gym yesterday and I was doing dips on like big dip bar and something I just never really liked them. Also, it's a very inconvenient thing to set up in my gym, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I've been doing it for the last couple of weeks. And it's funny, yesterday somebody came up to me and this is also a great testament to form videos with clients that we encourage them to send very regularly. I also record form videos of myself. And there are so many times I look at that form video and I was like, what the f- you doing? Like, you gotta fix this, right? Which is why I take them. So anyway, I'm doing dips. Yeah, I cleaned everything up. I was about to leave gym because it was my last thing. And he came up and he was like, hey, can I give you some feedback? And he was like, I think you were leaning back a little more. I just saw this guy like blow out his whole tricep like a month ago. Right. And he's like, I know it's like I'm projecting a little bit, but I think it would be helpful. And I think I had a band on there for assistance. And he was like, I think you can actually do more than you think if you make that little tweak. Right. Now I laughed because a couple years ago, me would have been like, nah, I'm good. Like, fuck off. Right. Like I would have had that like I know more than you, whatever. So it was just an interesting experience, which is so funny that we're talking about this because I was like, oh my gosh, like
It happens all the time now.
I should have
where you
taken a video
realize,
of
like,
this movement and I didn't. And
Yeah.
like I appreciate it. I'm gonna think about it now the next time I do it. He could have fucking
Well, it
saved me from a
becomes-
blown tricep.
it becomes fun for us now, I think, to work with other professionals because it's like a puzzle we get to solve on treating the whole person rather than, okay, this is my niche and this is what I'm really great at. It's like, okay, well, that's the problem with our medical system is everybody only looks at the thing they're an expert at without considering the whole person. How cool is it when we collaborate with other practitioners and physical therapists and mental health practitioners, and then this person's life fully changes and we got to be a part of it. It is so freaking cool.
Yes.
And then we gain more trust with our client because we actually helped them as a whole person rather than thinking we had some power to fix it all, right? Again, if you're qualifying a good provider or coach, do they say, I don't know? Or like, you know what? That's an area that here's the why. Do they understand the why? If they tell you something, they need to understand the why behind it. Two, and if they can't articulate that well, peace. Two, there's a lot of times the answer is, I don't know, let's look into it together. Like, here's my hunch based on my experience, but maybe this is something we can look into, or maybe I need to refer out.
You know, what's funny is I have like sections of this that I wanted to go through. One of them, which we can just kind of like elaborate on what you just said, is kind of looking for those red flags in yourself or others, which you kind of touched on. But there's also like those super simple fixes that ignore all context. So a very regimented or restrictive meal plan with no rhyme or reason to why that meal plan's in place, especially if you're not a registered dietitian. Fear of asking for help or believing that like delegating or asking for help outside of yourself is like not necessary or too much, or you're not willing. And not saying you always have to make a financial investment by any means. Undervaluing expertise because it's not like immediate or flashy. Or I always say that like you're welcome to look at results on Fueled's Instagram. However, you're not going to see this plethora of 60-day I lost 50-pound results because that's not the type of transformation that we choose to produce. It doesn't align with us. So, and if that's what you value, cool. Like we're obviously not the people for you, right? And then trusting people who sound super confident, like Jess said, instead of like asking good questions about like context and what's your actual experience with this and what results have you gotten from this solution, or just simply why. Like I tell clients all the time, if there's ever a point where I didn't explain something enough in a check video,
ask me why.
Ask me why. I want to talk through it.
And what ends up happening is we are able to get them better outcomes because as soon as, and this is my goal is always to explain the why and educate as we go, because if that client understands the why, now they're like, oh, okay, now I'm bought into actually wanting to do the thing because I know what the results are going to be. Whereas a lot of coaches, I think, just say like, oh, yeah, go do this. And it's like, there's no buy-in in that case. We're not solving that person's problem.
So if you feel like you're one of those people that he gets that shiny object syndrome, or somebody dangles a carrot in your face and you go for it every time. You want to change your plan every week. You're always like pivoting to the next diet or thing because you saw it on TikTok. That is some of this like Dunning-Kruger happening in real time because you're in that early phase where everything feels like it needs to be fixed with this like new hack, right? Like you're like, oh, there's this thing we have to do. And a lot of times, most of the time, when somebody comes to me and has that I'm not doing X, Y, and Z because of this or vice versa. I just kind of like say, okay, like I can see you put a lot of like thought and energy and effort into this. And that must be really frustrating to do that and not get results, right? Like I always want to validate their experience, but show them that there's this like whole other world out there that you get to experience and actually get the result and make your life easier. So
I think another one I don't think we have on the red flag or like things to be aware of list is like um information vomiting, which like I feel like I talk through like to build a better understanding of things. I talk through things like when we're talking to each other or whatever. But our job as a coach with clients is really, hey, there's a million different switches we could turn on or factors that we could manipulate. My job is to bring you to the most important one or two and explain why. And let's really work on that because that's going to produce the biggest outcomes. And then once that becomes your norm, we're going to layer in the next thing. And then we're going to layer in the next thing. I don't need to be talking to you about, well, and this is why the cortisol response does this, if you are just if we're not even doing exercise and eating enough protein yet, right? Like that's not an appropriate time to insert things I just learned as your coach, right? So, and again, I'm sure that I'm guilty of this back, like, and I'm sure I probably still am with new things I'm learning, right? I'm a talker. But that's like, I would say one of those things that produces less effective outcomes from your clients if you tend to be like that.
yeah. Yeah. And you're also confusing the client with information that isn't even like
Relevant, yeah.
Right now.
And again, it's always also giving them options and explaining the why, right? If I'm saying, hey, these are the most important couple things we can work on this week. Here's ways we can implement it. How does it feel for you? Because if it's something you're not ready or willing to do yet, okay, cool. Let's talk about some other things, right? So it's a collaborative process to be able to help that whole person given the context of their life too, not just, well, I read in the book that this is the most effective outcome. So here's your prescription. It's like, no. Life doesn't work like that because every single person and every person's life is so different. Our job is to kind of meet in the middle and find that perfect marriage of what's the most effective given the circumstances and what you're willing to do.
Also, it's that collaboration and finding that middle ground. You're providing your expertise, but you're still giving that client autonomy, or you're still receiving autonomy as a client, which is going to build your confidence and help you shift from this, I don't understand this, I don't know what I'm doing, what's the point, to actually mastering a new skill. Yeah. And that's the sustainability component that comes with coaching. If I just tell you what to do every single day and you blindly follow it, you're going to get a really good result, but at what cost? Like you have
and then you're going to gain it all back after. You're not going to be able to maintain it on your own. And that's something that we like really, really pride ourselves on is at the beginning, some people might, again, it's like it is a perfect example of this Dunning-Kruger effect, but there's a lot of people who are like, I don't think this program's for me 2-3 months in. And it's like, all right, well, too bad. You're not going to get the awesome outcomes that these people who have been with me for 14, 18 months are now chilling, maintaining all their fat loss, eating 2,500 calories a day, living life. Like you're just not over that little hump yet because you're stuck in your own feedback loop. Yeah, you're in your own way based on the things that you think work. And again, anytime somebody says like, oh, keto worked for me, this worked for me, whatever the exercise modality worked for me, I always ask like, well, then why are you here asking for guidance, right? Like respectfully, I'm not challenging you. I'm challenging you, but it's if it worked, we shouldn't still be in this loop trying to seek our next thing, right? It didn't really work if we weren't able to maintain it.
We're back at the same square we started in.
Yeah.
And then as you start to gain more knowledge, right? You have that blind confidence initially, that trickles away. The knowledge is still not there yet, but you're gaining more and more. That actually leads to more self-doubt initially as you make the shift because you're like, am I doing this right? What if this isn't for me? And that's that transition from like being conscious of what you do know and what you don't know. And that's okay that there's a gap. That's literally the purpose of life and being a human and learning and mastering new skills.
And for coaches, I think that's great if you can find a mentor who really is further along in their journey than you, right? Like I cannot tell you, Jill, I don't know if you can count the number of functional or hormone cases that we've had where I'm like, okay, I'm going in, I'm going to interpret this person's labs. I'm going to tell you the trends that I see and what I might say are the follow-up steps in terms of maybe more testing or protocol or whatever. And I want you to watch it all. And I want you to analyze their labs before I go to that client to make sure I'm learning, right? And there's been a lot of times I'm like, oh shit, I just impressed myself. Like I knew a lot more than I thought I knew because now I've done 50 of these, right? Like now I know a lot more than I thought I know, but along the way of learning, I'm seeking information and trying to add to that knowledge gap as much as possible. Same goes with training, right? Like I train people for free and then for little to nothing for at least 3 years before ever making any money, because I'm just trying to close the gap, close the learning gap faster, right? Unfortunately, I think because social media is a pretty marketing game, it's so easy for people to be like, oh, I'm the expert in this field right off the bat, and they haven't had any tangible real life experience yet. And then they expect like, oh, I see these coaches pulling in all this money. And it's like, what? Like to become a good coach, you ain't going to make any money for several years while you're becoming a good coach. Like that's step one, get an education. And when I say that, I mean, through experience, and even better through experience with somebody who's doing it so they can help call out some of your gaps and close them a little bit quicker.
It's interesting too, like another component of this I didn't really think about is how often women, individuals stay stuck because they underestimate their own capacity. And because we are so conditioned to think we have to do all of the things all of the time, this is what creates that like all or nothing mentality where you spend months or years saying, I don't have time, my career's too busy, my kids are little, like X, Y, and Z, whatever. But it's like, if all you did was maybe strength train 1 day a week and add 2 to 3 fruits and veggies a day, do you know how much further you'd be along if you did that for the next 6 months versus just doing nothing? Like that is going to compound exponentially in terms of your skill set, how you feel, your ability to execute, and then to stack more healthy habits and little tiny changes on top of that, because you're also going to build your confidence mentally of like, wow, I just stuck to these goals I set for myself because they were realistic and actually attainable for your life right now. So that's the other component, is not underestimating yourself, but also not comparing yourself to what other people do, because they're not you. Yeah, ask questions, ask good questions, stop looking for shortcuts.
I like this note that you have of don't mistake confidence for credibility. Instead, look for consistency and context. I think that
which I love hearing
the context.
People say, oh, I've followed Jess or I've followed you for the last year and now I'm ready for coaching. And it's like, good. I want you to get to that point.
They understand truly what and why we do what we do versus being like, I just want weight loss. And it's like, all right, but during this process, this is going to be uncomfortable for you if that's your number one priority, because that is a side effect of all these other healthy things that we're going to teach you.
Yep, 100%. So ask questions, look for patterns, to actually take action and implement. Don't say I tracked calories for 4 days and calorie deficit didn't work for me, or whatever the case is. Or make sure when you're saying my body's sensitive to carbs, is it, or were you only under eating when you were not eating carbs and overeating when you were, right? And that correlation is not actually the problem. Ask questions, learn, educate yourself. Hire out somebody if you want to make that process happen faster, because you have somebody to mirror things back to you, and educate you. And like Jess said, redirect you and help you like, nope, that we're not on that chapter right now. Like wash that away for a second. We'll revisit that in a couple weeks, months, whatever. This is what we need to do right now for you to get the result that you want and to make sure you keep it right
and again, if somebody's doing this in a really, really good way, their goal is for you to somehow someday not need them anymore. Like, what's the exit plan? It shouldn't be I need to stay with this person forever. I need to stay on this diet forever. I need to stay on this medicine forever. If you're working with a doctor, right? We want to teach clients how to self-audit. We're looking at their biofeedback, their labs, their data, how their own body adapts in whatever direction it's adapting, so that they someday start thinking in that same way and they're looking at these same patterns the way we're looking at it, right? Because it's really a science and an art what we do. It is not just, okay, let's use a macro calculator and calories in, calories out. It's really not. There's so many factors that go into it. We are super zooming out and saying like, okay, based on all these data points of experience I have in the back of my head from all these clients I've worked with over the years, this is the tool for this particular person in this moment, right? So it really is a science and an art in that way. And our goal is to help educate our clients so that by the time they leave us, they're like, oh, I've navigated all of these different life seasons through this time. And now I understand the why myself. Like some of my clients understand the why so well they could explain it and teach other people.
They do. So many of our
Yeah,
clients
that's true.
becoming coaches.
That's true.
Or they already are coaches and they become better ones, you
And
know?
when we talk about coach, I feel like this, I need to differentiate this because 5 million people on the internet call themselves coaches. What, like all of us are on our team, all of us are certified nutrition coaches or nutritionists. We have a registered dietitian. We have a physical therapist starting with us. We have like 3 of us are certified in personal trainers with in-person experience. Jill's a board certified health coach. Like we have all these credentials too. It's not like the MLM. I'm a health coach, right? Like I sell a product. It's not like that. It's like how to educate and do the behavior change piece along with the science of nutrition and the science of exercise.
Yeah, otherwise the supplements are irrelevant, but that's a conversation for another day. So if you are in that phase where things are starting to feel hard and you want to give up, good. You're probably on the right track, if I'm being honest with you. You're starting to like wake up and see like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did it that way. Or it might even feel better, right? Like we have clients a couple weeks in that are like, holy cow, I can't believe I'm eating this much food and the scale hasn't changed. Great. They just got a little tip.
We're learning. We're on the right track. Level 2 now. Yeah.
And then also if you struggle with that shiny object syndrome and getting that high to start a new diet every Monday because, you know, you do X, Y, and Z on the weekends, it might be a good time to like reflect and see like, why am I doing this and why am I pursuing things this way? And can I take a different approach? Because the answer is probably yes. And you can make things so much easier on yourself if you just are a little bit more open and stay consistent for more than 5 seconds. That's it.
Cool.
Hope that was helpful.
Help somebody. Again, I'm going to go back to my Chinese medicine guy. Shout out Dr. Morris. And I'll let you guys know how it goes.
Yeah,
I feel like I have some stuff to learn.
I feel like we need some updates in real time. Well, that is all for today's episode. Hope that was helpful, and we will see you guys next time.